the methods we're going to be using here is out of the TCNA handbook method, the B422, and I'll kind of pass it around just so you have a look at it. We have solid backing on these two walls. So this here is drywall, which some manufacturers of the membranes allow you to use drywall. Some of them want you to use dent shield. Some of them want you to use cement board. Either way, in TCNA, they specify it as solid backing. It's going to be up to the individual manufacturers that you use, whether this is approved or not. Most of them do. On the back wall, I intentionally left the wallboard off of the back wall because I want to be teaching how to shim a wall, to how our methods that we use with a combination of lasers and principles of square and plumb to get the back wall ready and prepped with wallboard. So the technical term for this kind of wallboard is cementitious coated extruded foam. So we're going to be using that on the back wall here. We're going to be using cardboard shims to get everything where we need it to be. Method B422 uses a bonded waterproofing membrane. So we're going to be using FloFX NoFlo membrane, the sheet membrane. So here, if you want to check out, that's B422. If you don't have a TCNA handbook, I do recommend getting one so that if anything ever comes up and you're on a job site and somebody has an issue or just questions about what you do, it's really nice to refer to the handbook and say, this is the method that I'm using. It gives them confidence. It makes you seem like you've done your research. And because in our industry, we have a lot of problems with people who have just learned from the guy who taught them before. And like anything, things can get lost in translation as it gets stepped down. Some people just have found ways to do things on YouTube, you know, and they think, well, because this guy on YouTube said to do it, then I'm going to do it. And then again, they teach their helpers and then down, and they think it works. They don't know that these jobs are failing 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And so the TCNA handbook is a great way to know that you're doing correct methods, methods that have been tested and approved by manufacturers and councils like the TCNA. B422, we're going to be using a sheet membrane. That's FloFX NoFlo membrane. We're going to be using a bonding flange drain. This has the 2-inch area on the drain itself, on the flange, for you to bond the waterproofing membrane to it. This is different than a 3-piece drain that you might have seen with the weep holes, water in, water out system. This is a different system. That system is also specified in the TCNA, but it's completely different. B422 requires a bonding flange drain. Why don't we use the other method, water in, water out system? Why are we using the bonded waterproofing system? For starters, you're only going to do one float. So instead of doing a pre-slope, pan liner or hot mop, and then another float, we're only going to have to do one float, put the waterproofing membrane right over the top of it. The other thing, that you don't have a saturated mortar bed underneath the waterproofing. So basically just the thinset is getting wet, and then in between uses, that water is allowed to evaporate, and that's how the system works. With the water in, water out, you're continually having water go down through the mortar and out the weep holes. Weep holes tend to get clogged, and that's where you get the issues. When it backs up over the curb, we get a lot of showers that rot from the outside in. So you can have a good hot mop, you can have a good pan liner, but because the water's wicking up over the curb and gets in, all of a sudden things rot out from underneath. The other one is curbless. We're doing a lot of curbless showers. There is no TCNA recommended guideline for a curbless shower using a water in, water out system. The only one you're going to find in this handbook is, let me get to it, B422C. So the C on the end of it stands for curbless. So this is the only approved method that I've seen for a curbless shower. You can use the divot method if you want, if you really want to use a 3-piece drain, but that's cumbersome. And why would you do it if you could just use a bonding flange drain? You cannot use a pan liner when you do a curbless. A lot of people want to do curbless these days. So those are the 3 main reasons why I have chosen to do this. This method that I'm teaching is not just in theory. We use this in practice. We've been doing it for probably 15 years or so with good results. Our construction company probably does 15 to 20 bathrooms a year. The tile-ready pans, which you see, we have some tile-ready pans up here, are excellent time savers. If you don't want to go through all of the steps that we're doing, tile ready pan is prefabricated, which is nice because it eliminates any of the failure points. So, which is really nice for peace of mind. If a tile ready pan is going to work, I'd rather use that because it's just faster and I don't ever have to think about the seams, waterproofing, potential failure points. We're going to be using a brick curb. So we have bricks. Another thing that we've developed over the years, we've kind of changed. At first we were doing wood curbs and we were just screwing our tile board to the wood curbs, waterproofing over them. We've torn out probably 15 showers in the last 2 or 3 years that failed because of the wood curb. A lot of these bathrooms we wouldn't have had to touch and replace because the tile work was actually good. It was all on mud work, but because they use wood curbs, the wood curb swells up, cracks the tile, cracks the grout, and so we switched from wood curbs and then we went to foam. This is something we would do. We would just get a curdy board, 2-inch curdy board, rip them down, usually stack them on top of each other to create a 4-inch tall curb. This is solid, it's not going to expand and contract, so if it happened to get any moisture from the outside, it's never going to be a problem. The issue is, though, is that you can't anchor into it. So we kept running into the issue of how to mount a shower door to it. That's why we've gone with the masonry. For one, it's going to hold up forever. It's solid, you can kneel on it, you can drop stuff on it, it's not going to get damaged. And then also for glass, they can sink and anchor into it and it can be supported. And it's cheap. You can go, what are those, Zach? I think these bricks are about 70 cents each. Yeah. So very inexpensive. You already have the tools on your truck to cut them. You cut them with a grinder, tile saw, and then also you have the Thinset, just stick them with Thinset. These bricks here are, I think they're 2 1/4 wide, 7 3/4 long, and 3 3/4 high. So yeah, they're just regular masonry. You can use the red ones, they're the same size. I think the gray ones are a little cheaper. It doesn't matter. We've used paver bricks, we've used all sorts of bricks to do it. We're going to be using the mortar lock ledgers. I've been teaching, I've been doing one-on-one consultations, helping people build their showers for over 5 years now. It's one thing to teach another professional how I do it. It's a different thing to teach somebody who doesn't have any experience with working with mortar, with working with some of the principles we use. So I've kind of evolved. I've tried a couple different methods to teach people how to do a shower pan successfully, because that's probably the #1 thing that keeps people from doing a shower pan like this, is that doing the dry pack. Because it's pretty easy to mess up if you don't work fast enough and if you don't stay level and know how to screed it. So I came up with these. These ledgers have a pressure sensitive adhesive on them. They actually will stick to any surface. They'll stick to masonry, they'll stick to wallboard, they'll stick to drywall. And so you peel the pressure sensitive film off, you just press it right onto the wall and it sticks. So we're going to show how to do that with a laser setup, really simple. And then the side that's facing out into the dry pack has this dovetail channel, and that dovetail channel locks it into the mortar. So it basically becomes part of the shower pan when it all dries. It's really cool. We did some testing and we couldn't pull the mortar out of that channel. I love seeing you guys be successful out there. So basically we're going to try to get this to where we have the wallboard up and we get the dry pack done today, and then tomorrow we're going to be doing the waterproofing part. For what we're going to do today, we're going to go with just 2 inches off of the back wall and then go from there. So you can do this with levels. Say if you were to take a level, and it's pretty easy. You wouldn't be able to do a square this way, but if you wanted to take a level and just go on each stud, but then you don't know if one stud is out of plane with another. So if you have a hump in your wall, you got to try to calculate and figure it out. When you're shooting a laser in a plane, now we basically have a reference point with the laser everywhere we go. So at every point we put this stick, we're going to know where it is in relation to this laser line, which you can almost envision like as a pane of glass, like that just is on its plane. So we're going to be able to find where the reference is. So when I make these strips, this is just a piece of float strip. that I just made a 2-inch mark. I did eighth inch increments. You don't even need to do that because you can kind of eyeball it. Again, this is 2 inches from here. I want that laser line to hit right in that gap. So you can make these out of anything. These are just some cheap little rulers that I got from Amazon, and I just put marks on them. It's nice to have the little something clear with the little slit in it, because then you can actually see the laser point through it when you're in the right spot. So once I've figured out the square of the room, and I know that, you know, my measurement's good there, next thing I'm gonna do is find out if the wall is generally going this way or it's going this way, because that's gonna determine where I wanna start. So I'll just kind of get a rough idea. And this wall is actually pretty plumb. So actually, it's falling this way. It's falling this way just slightly. So that means I'm going to start on the bottom. I'm going to do a 2-inch mark off of the bottom plate. I'm going to use 2 inches, and again, 2 inches. I used 4 inches for the original one. Again, that's arbitrary. I'm using 2 inches on this time. Again, arbitrary, but 2 inches is a nice kind of number because it allows enough room to play. You don't want it too tight to where you're trying to stick your head in. Like 2 inches is kind of a nice measurement. If you were to make it 4, you know, you'd be somewhere out in here. So I've just found that 2 inches is nice. So what I'm going to do is take, since this little slit is 2 inches, I've pre-made this. Take this ruler and you can go on either end and just put a mark where your slit is. Why don't you come get that, Zach? So what I'm doing is I'm taking my slit, my 2 inches, and I'm just putting a little mark right there. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Put a mark right there where the slit is. And now I'm going to take the laser and put the laser on those 2 marks. Right there. Okay. So I want you guys to come in and take a look at that. So I'm going to have to come out a little bit farther because I don't want to end up, I'd rather add shims than have to plane things and deal with that whole mess. So we want to add shims. So we are going to come out. Yeah, let me see here. 2 1/4 on this side. There we go. And that's better. Now we're adding shims. That's it. And if you're close, if you're just, I mean, I'd say try to get within 1/8 of an inch. You know, you don't need to try to get this shimmed perfectly, because as you're setting tile, you're going to be adding a little thinset here or there. Sometimes you can just spend too much time trying to get it perfect, and it doesn't end up perfect anyways. I mean, there's always going to be a little bit of room for error. The cardboard shims can compress a little bit. You know, it could be. You want to make sure that you set up your line so that you're adding shims instead of subtracting. Does that make sense? Because see, I can go to any point on here and see that I'm on the plus side. I'm adding. So why don't we do that? Let's start by getting our lasers set up to this point. Get your lasers set up, and then just make sure that we're close to that line and we're always on the plus side. So here you guys can have these. And let's go. Jeremy, why don't you go on this one? Sure. Wilmer, you can go there. Alberto over there.
Nice to meet you.
He's the inventor of the FloFX drain. Okay, let's see.
How's it going, man? Zach.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Been a while.
Yeah, let's maybe we just meet in the middle
and just have about an 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Why don't you take it to an 8?
Yeah.
And then we'll see where that ends up with the rest of the stuff. This is good. This is good stuff.
Definitely.
Because when we go into a shower,
Yep.
it's rarely
perfect,
nice.
yeah.
Never.
You always end up with something that's way out of whack.
Literally never.
Yeah. So, have you ever shimmed with the lasers?
I haven't.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool method to do. So you find the square of the shower and then make a little gauge. Like you could even make. Jeremy, I'm gonna grab it.
Yeah.
Like I even made this little stick,
Oh yeah.
2 inches,
Yep.
and you're basically forming like an invisible plane of glass with the laser.
Yeah.
And so wherever you stick this, it gives you the reference of where you need to be. Add shims, or sometimes you can plane something down or whatever. But it's always easier to add shims.
And are you wet shimming too?
No, we're not going to wet shim. We're going to do cardboard shims.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. I tried to wet shim once and it did not go well.
Didn't it?
No.
Yeah.
Board has too much memory.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you have a perfectly flat board, it'd probably work pretty well. The board I had was warped,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. It's not going to work.
it didn't do much.
Yeah, I've always worried about, the thinset cracking over time, maybe falling out behind it. I've always been leery on that. So I like it to be supported. I want to try to get that right in there. So like that.
A little bit shifted, right?
Yeah, let me see. You can just kind of double check. So
On the plus side.
Yeah,
that's
we
where we
want
want to be.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we're even or on the plus. And again, we can shave. Yeah, see, we're there. Yeah, so I think you're good.
Okay.
And then I would just double check the 2 side walls, just to make sure like we're within reason.
Okay.
It should be, but yeah. How you doing, Jeremy?
Good. I think I'm
Understand the concepts?
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
cool.
put this in a bunch of different places,
Yep.
and that's all plus. So
Yeah,
I think
good.
we're good.
Well, actually, I don't want to keep taking Jeremy's work for him, so we're gonna start over here. I'm just gonna start on this stud just because.
I want to let you know it's not fun.
So now
Yep.
you can just put as many shims as that you need.
Yep. I think it's one,
Just one. It looks like
2.
you see right
Yeah,
here.
just a bit.
Yeah, we can add another one. Can I see another one?
Every watt you do that.
And then you're just gonna take your stick and go down the stud
Yep.
and make sure you're ending up in the line again.
Gotcha.
So I'm just going to take this.
Sweet.
And that's that. And then just keep working your way down.
All right.
So can I see one more? Yeah, right in the middle. Looks like it might be.
Yep.
Yeah, now we're good.
Yep.
Yep. So
All right.
that stud is done. You can finish it off with more staples as you need, but really we don't need to fasten these up too much because we're going to have other fasteners going
Yeah.
through it with the screws.
Sweet. So what about that?
Yeah,
inches
yeah, I would
still-
fill that little in. Yeah, just
Okay.
put a little, just
Piece.
tear it off and
All
put
right.
it in there.
Sweet.
Sorry, I'm
That's okay. Yeah.
getting all up in your bubble.
No worries. There we go.
So yeah, Wilbur, it's easiest to find out the number that you're going to need at the top and stapling it at the top so then it's hanging down and then you can work your way down. Oh, staples. Drop it. Do you know what he used these for originally? No. He used them for like dams or. Oh, this is where I kind of got the idea.
Nice.
So I probably lost some
Does that work?
It's yeah, sort of. I mean, I think it's gonna just like hold it in place enough. I think it's gonna kind of just like drive right through.
I backed it all out,
because they're
too.
just cardboard, but it's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many tools at your disposal.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody knows it.
Yep.
So what we're using is just a generic wallboard. A lot of different manufacturers sell a wallboard like this. There's a lot of good wallboards out there. Weedy, Hydroblock, Sentinel from Floor and Decor. We use the Tile Ready board mostly, but yeah, any of these boards work well. I try to stay away from the Schluter-Curdy board. It works, but I like these boards better, more rigid, denser material. It doesn't have any paper in it. So we're going to be going every 10 inches on the studs and screws and washers. So we'll get this wall up and then we'll be ready to put the curb in. The guy's got the wallboard up. I'm just gonna go and check just to make sure everything is looking good. Wow, that's a perfectly flat plumb. Beautiful. Gosh, that's so nice. So nice to deal with a flat plumb wall. Let me check this out. And this one was really bad. What we probably had in this corner, like
4 or 5 shims.
yeah, so almost like half inch worth of shims. You nailed it. It's right there. Look at that, Zach. Look how nice that is.
The best time you can spend.
Yeah.
You're showing up before board. You can spend that much time and just everything perfect.
Send the tiles.
So yeah, so my friend Mark Christensen with Tarkus Tile has a saying, it's prep hard, tile easy. So the more time that you can spend getting everything nice and flat, I mean, look at that, that's beautiful. We want it flat every single direction, like it is, no rocking. And plumb, if we can get it, that's a bonus. So these are plumb and flat, beautiful. So now that we got the wallboard up, we're gonna get our curb set. We're using Masonry curb. These are bricks. I bought these at Home Depot. You can probably pick them up at Lowe's or wherever you can find bricks. But these are about 70 cents each. Very nice, easy to use. And so we're going to draw a line. We're going to come out 30 inches. So, oh, I got a straight edge. So we're going to come out 30 inches. Now that we have the back wall square, we want to take our 30 inches off of the back wall. We know the back wall's square, so we're going to use the dimension. That's one of the important things about squaring the shower. is now that we know that the back wall's square, we can take all our dimensions off of that. So let's go 30 inches off of the back wall. We'll just do a Sharpie line, and that's gonna be the inside of our curb. So let's go ahead and mark that. You guys should have a Sharpie pencil. There's a straight edge. Another one right there.
Also, one thing worth noting about it gives you the ability where you can really nail the layout on your shower. So if you know that you're using 2x2 tiles, for instance,
Oh, yeah.
you could actually take that into account when you're setting your curb and really set yourself up for a perfect layout.
Yeah.
So it's not always just about having a center drain, which you love,
Yeah.
but sometimes you can also move that curb maybe a ½ inch and really just nail the layout. That's one of the benefits of building your own curb.
Yeah. So do you go with, do you center your tile on the drain, or do you center it in the space of the shower floor?
I like to center on the drain if I can. I think it's the focal point.
Yeah.
I think drain first, and the walls are secondary, with the exception of having a very small sliver. So sometimes you're going to have a tiny sliver. That's going to take precedent over having a perfectly centered drain.
Yeah.
But if you can have a center drain and your layout left to right with the walls is maybe a ½ inch off, I would go for the drain just because that's really the
That's
focal
focal
point.
point. Then when you walk in, you know, you got that bling on the drain grate. That's where your eye goes.
Yep.
And that's what I tell my guys too. And coming from the track world, Kirk always had a hard time with that. I mean, it took like, he had 3 or 4 tries where he forgot that.
Yeah.
And he's going for full tiles, best layout on the walls.
Yep.
And I'd be like, oh, dude, we got a little sliver cut at the drain, dude. No,
Yep.
we can't do
Yep.
that. And finally now he's on board. He's like, yes, Isaac, we center on the drain every time. Unless, again, if there's a little tiny
Yeah.
sliver, we got to adjust. But usually the FloFX has enough, just enough movement in it to adjust to get rid of those.
Yep. That's the big thing with tile layouts, though. It really is a game of compromises, and you really got to choose your best
Yeah.
situation.
Yep.
It's not always going to be perfect, but
It's subjective. Right?
yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, this is hands down the best one.
To speed set, let's go ahead and mix it up. Just add enough water. There's buckets of water with sponges, so just mix it up to nice consistency. Not too stiff, but not too loose. Is that good instructions?
And you already have the bricks pre-cut?
Yeah, bricks are pre-cut.
Yep. If you have your wet saw set up, you can cut the bricks on your wet saw, and it's actually great for dressing your blade too.
Oh, that's a good tip. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
For like porcelain slabs,
Yeah.
we kind of do that with quartz. We'll have like a scrap piece where we run the blade along so that it's cutting straight and clean.
So quartz dresses the blade.
Yeah.
Okay.
It helps a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, bricks also
Yeah, I
work
think
super well.
bricks, traditionally are good for dressing blades, right? That's
Yeah.
what most tile setters would use.
You'll use a real dressing stone, and it's like magic.
Mhm.
But bricks are the next
Yeah.
best thing.
So we're gonna stand up. We're gonna stand them up, Alberta. We're gonna stand them up on end, like this. You can do them either way,
Okay, got it.
but I like a more narrow curb. There's no need to have a big wide curve. That 4 inches is a nice height. That gives you, once your tile and mortar bed in, then you got a nice 2 inches to step down. Then it's not a little trip hazard and will hold back up if it happens. So you can flip them. I would say if you were gonna build just a step up, like just a step up and then slope down to drain with no inside lip, you could just flip them on their side like that. But yeah, for what we do, we usually just then set them just like that. Sweet. All right, so yeah, let's get that speed set mixed up, and then we'll set these bricks. Yeah, do a little talking here, Zach. So what we're doing now that we got the bricks set in there, and we're using speed set today because we're doing this all in one day. But you might want to, if you use regular thin set, you can set your bricks and just get on it the next day. But we've got the speed set down. we're getting the bricks damp. That just helps with the bond of the thinset to it. And then we're combing thinset on the wallboard, and we're gonna set the inside and the outside of the curb. And we're gonna try to get those level and with a little bit of pitch going in. So the wallboard's going to be sitting up just a little bit higher than the bricks, and then we're going to fill the top with thinset. Jeremy, you can just take your level and just see where you're at with this.
Oh, yeah. Just to make sure it's good.
So you can see that side needs to come up. So we got some horseshoes that you can just. Perfect. So this way we don't have to worry about leveling our bricks. We can just level the board that's stuck to it, make the top nice and level, and that's all you need to do. Definitely coming out. Yeah. So Wilmer was a little low on the outside, didn't have enough slope, so we got to put some more wedges under there. You can really see how it works out over here with on Alberto's. Yeah, we might.
One more shim.
No, that's good. That's good slope. But you can see how out of level the floor is in comparison to the wallboard, which is level. So instead of having to build those bricks up, we were able to just level the board, and then we're going to screed off the top to get it level. Because that would be pretty tough to try to float those bricks up to make them level. A lot easier to do it with the wallboard on the side. Here's how everything finishes out. We have a nice curb, just filled in with speed set on the top, screeded it off, got a perfectly square off of the back wall. Nice square, same dimension going all the way across. Filled in with a little bit of slope there going towards the shower.
No, definitely.
So people ask me a lot, how much slope should you have like on the curb? With something this small, you know, TCNA says 1/4 inch per foot. You know, this is only 4 inches wide, so 1/4 inch divided by 3 isn't a whole lot. It's less than an 1/8. So I aim for about an 1/8 inch going from the outside to in on the slope. You know, it's you can put a little more, a little less would probably be fine. As long as it's not sloping the wrong way, you're usually okay. So yeah, Wilmer's now he's filling in the top there. Got a nice surface to wrap the sheet membrane over. Have you put one of these fans in before?
I have not.
Have you done dry pack before?
Nope. I've ripped a bunch of it out.
This is the best.
I was to say that's cool. All the old. I work in mainly old homes.
So nobody here's put in a FloFX before? Oh, this is great. This is cool. Okay. All right, Chase. Chase.
Yeah, somebody told me if you gotta use.
And somebody's got a tape measure, right?
Don't mix them.
Okay. So Chase, why don't you not glue it in for so that Jeremy can actually glue it in?
Oh yeah.
So
I like to prepare it before I glue it. Where the flange itself is square, the big thing you want to do is make a reference line so that you can glue the flange in square with the shower.
So we don't need that adapter plate.
Yeah, we don't need the adapter because we're going direct to a waste pipe.
So I get a lot of people that ask that they just, because that adapter plate is in there, they think that they have to put a 3-piece drain in and adapt it when it's just a 2-inch stub out.
Yep.
So so we need to try to like emphasize that if there's a 2-inch stub out, that's all you need.
Exactly.
You just take that adapter plate off. That's only in the case if a 3-piece drain is already installed, then you don't have to cut it out.
Exactly.
So say if you're down in the Bay Area, the contractor has a 3-piece drain installed, you can use this adapter to change it over without taking the whole bottom flange of the 3-piece drain out.
Okay.
Yep. So you can still use the adapter. Robert Davis in Oregon showed me this trick. You can actually glue the adapter to the flange itself. And what it does is it acts as a positive stop. So it stops the flange from going lower.
Oh, I got you.
So if you have a loose waste pipe, you can glue that in and it gives it a platform to rest on.
I got you.
So you can put it in upside down or you can put it in right side up. You can glue that on first to kind of set your height, especially in a situation where you're on a wood subfloor and the waste pipe's kind of floppy. It'll give you something to hold the flange into place where you can add screws to the corners.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's a little tip.
Yeah.
So because the flange itself is square, you do want the flange to be square with the shower. If you're a little askew, you can fix it with the grate carrier, but what that does is it's going to eliminate some of your horizontal adjustment. So rather than saving your horizontal adjustment to line up with the tile layout, you're using it up to square the grate.
Okay.
So the more squared the flange is, the better, the more horizontal adjustment you'll have. So what I like to do, just come in and measure right to this point. Come in, we're like 10 5/8. So I'll come over here, I'm gonna make a line that's 10 5/8.
And what point, sorry Chase, what point were you measuring off of?
Right to this little corner, right to the little triangle. It's just a good reference point where even if you're not quite square, so we're 10 5/8 there, but if we move it a little bit.
And you're going to the outside of the flange or the fabric?
Pretty much anywhere. You just want a reference point, but I like to go right to the edge of the flange.
Okay, gotcha.
So we're extremely out of square right there, and we're still showing 10 5/8.
I see that there.
And then we're dead on square, and we're still very close to 10 5/8. So we're very close to 10 5/8 there. And if we go extremely out of square, it's still like 10 5/8. So that's just a good reference point to measure from.
Okay.
So we're gonna come in here, and we're gonna make a line that's 10 5/8. Come over here, make another one that's 10 5/8. And then I'll just draw a line on the subfloor. And that just gives us a reference. So when we glue this in, we know that we're nice and squared up in the shower.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
So just something like that. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but the closer you are to perfect, the more horizontal adjustment you'll get with the grate.
Okay.
So then we glue it in, we just kind of eyeball it and make sure that we're lined up with that line right there.
Yeah, so you can see your reference line there.
And then the other,
That's a great way to do it because, yeah, I've been doing it, by measuring off the back wall as the glue's drying.
Yeah.
And it's kind of tough because the glue can dry pretty fast.
Yep.
And you're kind of trying to measure. I
Yep.
like that line idea.
Yeah, or if you have a laser, you can throw a laser in. You just want some sort of reference. I'm usually putting in uncoupling, and a lot of times the uncoupling is it's set super square in the shower anyway. So you can just use one of the lines on the uncoupling as a reference point.
Okay, so yeah, then you just use either ABS glue or PVC glue, whatever your pipe is.
Yep. One of the other nice things, you guys already have the waste pipe flush with the subfloor. For a mud bed, it looks like you're about a 1/4 inch high, which is going to give you a 1 inch thickness at the flange, which is pretty much perfect. Some of the other flanges, the tail piece it protrudes from the flange itself, so you need an inside pipe cutter and you got to cut below the surface.
Yeah.
So one of the nice things about this is you can just cut it flush and glue it on. So you don't really need an inside pipe cutter.
Yeah, we usually go flush or just a little proud of it. Maybe, yeah, like you said, 1/8 inch, just a little wiggle room there.
Yeah.
And so you're saying, inch is about perfect for a mud bed?
Yep. If you go flush with the subfloor, you're going to be at 3/4 of an inch, and this portion will rest right on the subfloor. Okay. So I like to go like an 1/8 inch proud.
Got it.
That's pretty much perfect.
Just glue it in.
Yep.
All right, let's get them glued in, guys.
And here's why: the fittings are a 90-degree, and a plumbing system has built-in slope. Yes. So this is always going to be sloped, and it's going to have a 90-degree fitting. So your waste pipe is never going to be plumb. It's always going to have an angle. Yeah. So when we mud this, I'll show you guys how how I like to fix that a little bit.
Okay, got it.
I'm looking it out.
So ABS is California, Oregon, Washington.
So when you put that in, you want to give it a
Arizona.
quarter turn to the left and a
Interesting.
quarter turn to the right.
Utah,
Yeah,
Utah's
just enough to
ABS.
really spread that glue in.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're actually gluing this in, you're gonna have a bigger gap around the pipe. You want to apply to the fitting,
Yeah.
the pipe, and then the fitting again. So the flange, the pipe, the flange again.
Yep.
Install it quarter turn left, quarter turn right, and that's just going to spread the glue
Spread the glue.
throughout the full joint.
If you can't get it perfect there when we're floating it, you can pack it in. Yeah, pack some
Okay. Yeah.
Good.
Yep, that'll be our. We got one that's out of level, so that'll be
Oh,
good. So you can do a
perfect.
trick on that one.
Yep.
All right, so now that we got the FloFX flange in and we're ready to go, we're ready to get set up for putting our dry pack in. Have you guys seen me use these on my videos yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're familiar. Have you seen? No, you haven't seen me put it in. These are called the Mortar lock ledgers, and I developed these to help people screed their dry pack, and it's helped immensely. It's been a huge success since they've come out, and really, really excited about this product and what it can do for people who it's their first time. So, all three of you guys, it's your first time doing a dry pack. Mm-hmm. This is so cool. This is awesome. The concepts of doing a dry pack, when we have a center drain like this, we want to go about 1/4 inch per foot. Again, that's in the TCNA guidelines. So what I'll do is I'll take the farthest measurement in a 5 foot by 3 foot shower. That's typically, it's 33 inches. So I just round up to 36, so 3 feet, that'd be 1/4 inch per foot, times 3 is 3/4. So we want our perimeter of our screed to be 3/4 inch higher than the FloFX bonding flange. So we're going to be screeding off of the top of the bonding flange, and we're going to be screeding off the top of this mortar lock ledger. These mortar lock ledgers have a dovetail channel that's going to lock into the dry pack so that it's all one unit. On the other side is a pressure sensitive adhesive that's going to stick right to our wallboard. It will stick to, I've stuck it to mud floats, I've stuck it to this kind of wallboard, I've stuck it to drywall, I've stuck it to curdy board, and it all sticks very well. But the pressure sensitive adhesive is just basically holding it in place and giving us a surface to screed off of. Once that mortar dries, this is going to become part of the screed itself. So it's pretty simple. If you have a laser, this laser that I've been using has a laser on the bottom. So if you're going to buy a laser, 3D laser, I do suggest getting one with the laser on the bottom. Most of the ones you see only have the lasers on the top and the two sides. But when you have one on the bottom, it's really handy because you can just literally set it right on the FloFX flange. The laser line is going to be 3/4 inch higher than the bonding flange. So it's almost like it's perfect for it. Now if you need to adjust, you can use some shims. Say you got a bigger shower floor. The FloFX comes with shims. Chase, how many shims are in a kit?
4.
4?
Yeah.
What are the sizes?
So 3 at an 1/8 inch and 1 at a 16th.
Okay, so you can just use a combination to bring your laser level up where you need it to be. And then now say if you had to go 4 feet, now you need to be up 1 inch, so you'd have to add 1/4 inch underneath the laser to bring it up. So that's really handy. If you only have a laser with the 360 laser on the top, you can work from the top down with a type of gauge. I have a video, I'll link it in the description, and I do show how to do that because when I first did this, that's the only kind of laser I had. And then my guy Kirk said, oh no, I have one with the laser on the bottom. And so I found this on Amazon, 140 bucks. It's a good deal. That's that. I mean, now that we have that perimeter, all we do is take our mortar lock ledger. First thing we're going to do is we're going to cut it to size. These are 5 feet, so we're a little tight. Probably need to cut about 1/2 inch off of it. And then you're just going to take the end that you cut. I've found that it's easiest to take the cut end. This end isn't cut. This end, and that's the easiest place to start it. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get them started. You have to have a fingernail. let's see, this one. And so you just want to get it started. So when you first are going to place this, so the green line is going to be at the top, so this part comes out, so you're just going to line it up. And so when you start it, don't peel the strip all the way back. You just want to get it started. And you just want to place it and use pretty light pressure. Pressure sensitive adhesive, the harder you push it, the more it sticks. So just placing it, you want a pretty light stick. Once you know that it's where you want it on the line, then you can go back and push it in and it's not going to move. So we basically do that, just follow the green laser line going all the way around and on the face of the curb too. Because I've seen a lot of people, they'll make these out of just regular foam board. There's two problems with that. For one, it's only half an inch and it's not quite enough surface to screed off of. And the other thing is that it's not usually straight. It's kind of hard to cut wallboard. As you saw, even when we were doing these, it's kind of hard to get a perfectly straight line. You usually have to use a skill saw or table saw to do that. And lastly, if you wanted to install it into either a foam or a masonry curb, there's no way to do that with screws. So that's why I came up with a pressure sensitive adhesive, so it would stick to all surfaces without penetrations. Now you can stick some screws through it if you want to, but you don't need to. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and set up your lasers. You guys each should have 3 of the mortar lock ledgers. So we'll put 3 in each, and then just go ahead and get those set up.
And do you like to split the laser line when you do that? Where do you like the laser line to end up on your ledger?
That's a good question. I guess I kind of like to have it showing like right on the top, but I've seen people, you know, I think Spencer does it where it's kind of splitting the laser line. What do you like, Zach?
Probably, yeah, just under it like
Yeah.
this.
As long as you're consistent with it,
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
matter, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And they don't have to be super tight to the wall. You can give yourself even like 3/16 on either side. And I like cutting them from the top. I cut them from the pressure sensitive adhesive side first. Or did it come off nicely? Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
FloFX tile and grate and you can install it in a foam grate. We're going to be how much for that.
Do you have like a little foam drilling rod next or something?
We're just going to skim with Thinset. So we're not going to make the brake pads, like the brake pad looking things. You can Thinset in. I think Thinset will be just as durable. It needs to be LFT to do it. Yeah. The problem is the hot lock pretty different.
That's not telling you anything over yet.
Yeah, no, you got now it's
Like 1 3/4.
How's that going?
it's going good now. Like anything, it takes a while to ramp up. But
Yeah, because even for us that have done this for years and years, even when, you know, getting the perimeter done, it's like, because we start on one side, right? You go and then you work around. And by the time you get to the other end, I'm always like quarter
Right,
off.
just a little off.
Yeah, 3/16 off. I'm like, where did I go? And it's just from the levels. You know, you're reading a bubble.
Right.
And so it's a little subjective.
Yeah, totally.
And then also, one thing that one of my pros who used to work for me, I gave some to him and he said, you know what's great about this too is I'm not beating up my levels. Because when you're tamping down the perimeter, you're even just like if you're using a rubber mallet, I think levels don't like that jar.
Totally, right.
I don't think the bubble likes the shock of
Right. Well, it's like the ones that like fall from heights or out of the back of your van or truck or whatever are the ones that you end up having to replace, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this saves all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
If you can't find Dynacrete, if you're not on the West Coast, good alternatives are Mapei 4-1 or Latacrete 209. Good bag muds. What you need to mix it with is one of these auger bits. These egg beaters, while they're great for Thinset, they don't do a good job at evenly mixing up the deck mud. The nice thing about these, you put them down and it brings everything from the bottom up, gets the deck mud really nice and fluffy. You can mix it in a wheelbarrow or a mud box like this, but I found this is the way when doing shower pans. If you only have to do 3 bags, you know, these are awesome. You can find these on Contractors Direct, about $100, and a good heavy-duty mixing drill. So the Dynacrete ratios might be a little different than the Mapei 4-1. This calls for 1/2 gallon of water per bag. So I got them all pre-measured out. So each of these buckets has 1/2 gallon. We're just gonna dump 1 bag in, and then the mixer goes down. It will continually feed, and once you mix it for about 30 seconds, it's usually good. So we're gonna mix up all 3 of your buckets at the same time, or you're gonna do 1 at a time, get them all ready, and then we'll take them in all at once. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Will that drill a hole in the bucket?
What's that?
Will they drill a hole in the bucket?
No, it's got a flat bottom. It doesn't have a.
That's a good question. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
you don't want to mix and pick it up.
Yeah, right.
Whoops.
Okay, there you go, guys. Let's go ahead and get mixing.
Just kind of go in a circle and then we'll bring all that thread up to the top.
So yeah, you can adjust the water a little bit. I think a 1/2 gallon, especially on a warm day like today, maybe a little bit more. And it doesn't take a whole lot. Just a little spritz will help. Yeah, you don't always need to go by the book. As we proved with Latacrete with their water ratios, there's a lot of wiggle room in manufacturer specs for amounts of water to use in a mix. So if it doesn't feel right to you, then add a little bit more water. Because we're not dealing with perfect science. The quality of cement can vary from batch to batch. You know, these are put in a hopper and the ingredients are mixed. And so a little more cement in the batch, it's going to require more water. Different types of sand, different types of cement can all affect the water ratio.
So yeah, just a little bit of water, no problem. Try holding it. Try holding it. Yeah.
Okay, so mortar lock ledgers are installed. The deck mud is mixed up. You can see the deck mud, you just want it to clump up in your hand and form a ball. If it does that, it's good to go. And even if there's some pockets that are a little dry, it's fine. Once you spread it out and work it, it's all going to compact to each other and it's going to dry really hard and smooth once we trowel it out. So we got everything ready. The laser worked out great. We got a nice level perimeter with a 1/4 inch per foot going down to the FloFX drain. Now, a couple of things to note. We are on a cement slab foundation. So when you run into this, you want to make sure that we're bonding the deck mud to the concrete slab. I know we got these old vinyl tiles in here, but this is on a concrete slab. We're going to pretend that we're on a concrete slab. So we need to bond it. By bonding, all you need to do is make a slurry, which can be just any kind of thinset, any cheap thinset. Just put it down and we're making a bond coat. You don't even have to trowel it, you can just do a smooth trowel. That way when we put the deck mud onto this, it's going to be bonded to that slab. So we're not going to do that for demonstration purposes because it'll be really hard to get off of the slab if we do that. But just make sure when you do this on your slab, you do this bond coat. The other thing we want to use the thinset for is to pack under the FloFX flange and lock in the thinset to the mortar lock cavities below. So you can just take some thinset, put it on your margin trowel like this, and that way the flange is going to be bonded and locked into this mortar. So everything is going to be one monolithic piece combined with the deck mud to make one solid floor. So let's go ahead and do that, guys. We won't put the slurry down, but we will pack around here. And then also, if you are on a plywood subfloor, it's a different method of installation here. So if you're on a plywood subfloor, either upstairs or a crawl space, this is what you're going to want to do. So if you're plywood subfloor, you're going to do a cleavage membrane. Again, we're working out of the TCNA handbook. Plywood floor, cleavage membrane, which can be this Aquabar tar paper, it can be plastic sheeting, it can be roofing felt, anything that's going to separate the mortar from the plywood, because wood expands and contracts when it gets wet, so we want this to be uncoupled. After you put the tar paper down, you put down metal lath and staple or screw it down to the subfloor, and then the deck mud goes directly on that. You don't need to do the thinset slurry. The deck mud would go right onto the lath and lock into the lath to create a monolithic, unbonded dry pack. Okay, so that's what you do if you have plywood. So let's go ahead, guys. Let's get the deck mud ready. Go ahead and let's put our lasers away. And then I think, why don't you guys just put a little bit of thinset under one side, since we only have one bucket. Just get the feel of taking that margin trowel, putting under there. So when you're in the field on a site, you'll want to get that all the way, thinset all the way under there. But for here, just get a couple little scoops under there.
As we're just filling in these under flange mortar cavities with thinset, so it forms a mechanical bond with the flange, and then the thinset will bond to the dry pack. So it's okay if you don't do a perfect job, as long as you have, you know, like 80% coverage on in these mortar cavities, you're going to be good to go.
This is the new one, huh?
Yeah, you like the new fabric?
I do. Yeah.
I'm like so you have like just a quick coat, just so you have some coverage, but it doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be perfect. You definitely do want to scrape off the excess though. Yeah. Can I see that? Yeah. Okay, let's see both of them. So what you're trying to do here, I like to use this side.
Yep.
And it's just enough that you're filling those cavities.
Oh, yes, yes.
So just the cavities right there, and then you can take and just bring it in this way.
Oh, got it.
And then scrape that out, and then pull it away that way.
Oh.
So you want to make sure that it's on an angle this way. So when you scrape it, it pulls it that way and it keeps the fabric clean. You want the fabric really clean right up to the point that you're actually waterproofing.
Gotcha.
So just that. It's right there where you have a bunch under. We'll take and just remove it. And then we'll pull it away that way. You want to try on that side?
Sure.
Are you a righty or a lefty?
I'm good. All right. Thank you.
All right, go.
Bottom of the FloFX has the Thinset to bond the deck mud, and so now we're ready to go ahead and dump out and start mixing our mud. I have a couple different size, these are just redwood float strips, redwood lattice, 1/4 inch by 1.5 inch wide redwood. You can use piece of baseboard, MDF, whatever kind of scrap straight wood that you have. I like to use these for the screed points, because once you do the deck mud, you're just going to be screeding off the perimeter. And so I usually do 2 different sizes. I got a 30 inch and I got a 24 inch pre-cut, because as you get closer this way, you need a smaller strip, but you need one to reach into the corner. So I do 2, 130 and 124. So we're just going to dump out the deck mud. We have our wood floats. These are Marshalltown wood floats. I sell these on my website, and I get them pre-worn. When they're brand new, they don't work very good because they got sharp edges and they dig in. So you can just take some 80 grit sandpaper and put them on your variable speed grinder and sand down the edges. Just soften everything up. It makes it a lot easier to work the mud. So basically we're just going to dump the mud out, tamp it down, and then we're going to use these strips to screed it off. And then once we get going here, I'll give you guys some pointers on how to work the mud. So let's go ahead and let's get going. Let's dump out our mud.
One thing I like to do,
Yeah.
is I like to start off at the flange, so we get the flange.
Oh, yeah.
So we get
Sorry.
the flange solid first.
Okay.
Before you fill the entire shower pan. You have
Good
a little
point.
more room to work. You're able to actually level the flange and then build out from there.
Okay, so yeah, so let's just dump a little bit of mud around the flange, get it level, and then we can dump out the mud in other areas. Usually what I'll do is I'll do a half at a time. Like I'll dump out enough mud to work on this half. That way you could even get in here and work if you need to, and then step out and do the other half. That's usually how I do it. Yeah, let's go ahead and get some mud just around the flange and pack that in.
So just dump right at the edge.
And you can dump your whole bucket out if you want. You can just dump the whole thing.
Yeah,
out.
yeah, for sure.
Just less handling.
So it's weird. I've never used a wood float.
No?
Nope.
Metal one?
Yeah, it's a metal trowel.
A flat trowel?
Yep.
Yeah, these are pretty nice.
So one thing
Get them pre-worn because they work really good for this motion.
Yep.
You can really kind of lock it all together. I mean, flat trowels good because you can tamp and you can push down.
Yep.
But you can't get a circular motion with it.
So one thing I kind of wanted to point out. Go ahead and force some mud under the flange, just like you're doing. And you feel like you have that packed in there pretty well.
Yeah.
Now, feels like you're packed in there pretty well, right? Now go ahead and put your fingers in, and feel how much space you still have. Like,
Oh yeah.
like really
Right,
force
it's like-
really force it in.
Yeah.
See how much more you can really pack that in. The number one failure you're ever going to have with a bond flange style drain is deflection on the flange. So the firmer you can have this packed in, the better. Like you had that pretty well packed with the float, and my fingers are backing it that far.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can put a lot more mud in.
Cool.
But also right now is a great time to check the level of the flange. So what you want to do is, feels like that side's probably low. So this side, you're really going to force more under this to force this low side up into level. And the best way to do that is just with your fingers right to level.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, let's see what we got there. Okay, so it feels like you got it out there pretty good with that. Now, your fingers in there. Actually, pretty good. So see how much more you can put your fingers in that way? You can put a lot of force in there. And you want that just packed in really nice and tight. Awesome.
Have to have, most of the time we have the shallow flooring anyways, but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. If you tile first. So I think that's a little dry.
Yeah, that's a little dry. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and spread the whole thing out, and we're gonna dump a water bottle on there. Actually, here I'm gonna do this. Just stay right there, Jeremy.
You can go a little more proud, a little taller, because you're going to want to tap all that down and really compact it down. So yeah, so I would go a little taller and then tack it down, and then when you use your sticks to scrape it away, you'll be back down to where you want to be.
Thank you.
See how much better that is just from that.
Okay, now see your flange closest to me. It's right there. You still have a bunch. It's not not happening. So what I like to do, I'll go ahead before I spread everything out. I'll go ahead and I'll get packed all the way around the flange, about 4 inches or so.
Off from the flange.
Yeah.
On all sides.
Yeah, you can spread all your mud out, but I also like to get all the way around the flange packed. The rest of it we compress super well, but around the flange, I like to have all this compressed really well, just to resist any movement, resist deflection. Yeah. That's good looking mud though. You mixed that up great. Oh, thank you. It's about the perfect consistency right there.
See how you got some buildup on there? Every once in a while, you just want to keep it, tamp it down?
Yep.
Just like this. Just like
Probably the biggest tip I could give for efficiency is to pack more mud than you need.
yeah, you guys don't need to try to get it exact on the first pass.
You want to get it higher than you need so that you can screed off the excess. It's way easier to screed off the excess than it is to add more mud.
Exactly.
So overpack and then screed off the excess and just push it over the other side.
Yeah, you can just clean it off so you know what you're doing.
Now the other thing you can do is take your straight edge, use the gauge, and kind of check a few places, see if you need to add more. Yeah, so you're pretty good there. You're probably to the point where you can start packing it down. Yeah.
Okay, so now what you can do is, now that you have this tamped down, screed everything, use your stick to screed everything, put all the excess on that side. So you can drag, you don't need to go back and forth. With the deck mud you can kind of drag, but be careful that you don't come off your strip on the edge. Yeah, stay on that perimeter. Use 2 hands. Use 1 hand on the flange and 1 hand on the strip. There you go. And just take little bits off at a time. Don't try to take too much off. There you go. Exactly.
You have any questions?
Exactly. Yeah, so you can just take the X. Exactly.
Pretty much perfect. Say you have excess. Where you've already treated. Just make sure you get
Yep. And you don't have to get it perfect on the first pass. Just, we want to get the majority of the mud off of there so that we can use it on the other side. And then yeah, make sure you stay on that perimeter. All the way, yeah, it'll go all the way into the corner. Yep, there you go. Beautiful. Yep, that's it.
You want it so that it's riding right on. Like so. And then also right on the side. So.
Beautiful. Now just continue and do that same thing on the other side there. How we doing, Wilmer?
Doing okay?
Yeah. Yeah, what I like to do, yeah, exactly. Use 1 hand. So have you packed it down yet? Have you tamped it? Okay. So before you do this, we need to tamp it down. So just put more mud, just scoop some of this mud back over there.
Okay.
So that it's about 1/4 inch higher than where we're gonna finish up.
Okay. And just start tamping it?
Yeah, go ahead and go ahead and you want to get it, yeah, just like this area, just something like that. Yeah, and then just start tamping. Just So we want to work in a direction. So you have to realize here that if you were to tamp this way, you could be pushing down. You want to tamp in directions like this.
Okay.
So that the heel isn't going too low. Does that make sense?
That's the satisfying part.
Okay. So the heel has to stay kind of upright.
Yeah. And then you can just take this so you always know where you're.
Yeah, that makes it really easy.
Yeah. Same thing over here. That's a good tamp. Now you can do the screed.
Okay.
Yep. Keep your stuff clean so you know where it's at. Yeah, 1 hand on the flange, 1 hand on the strip. There you go. Yep. So it looks like we're a little low.
Yeah.
See how we're low?
Yeah. So just add more.
Add more. And when you go back over something you already tamped, you're going to have to break it back up.
Okay.
Or else the mud doesn't want to stick.
Okay.
So go ahead and add some more mud over there. And then do the same thing. Oh, I don't think we're high enough there.
Still?
Yeah, so you kind of, yeah, maybe if you get on this side, you'll be able to see. But if you kind of work this way, you'll be able to see. See, we went too low right there.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of go with the shape. You want to go with the shape of the shower pan. So you want to work in motions like this, where it's and don't be afraid to stay up high when you tamp it down. See, now we kind of have a good shape to where we know we're up high, and then as we pack again, pack in a motion that goes with the shower pan, like it's sloping down.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to go across like this. We would rather go
continue the pattern
Yeah.
or the slope.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, there we go. That's much better. Much better. There you go. Okay, yeah, now let's screed it. Get the long one. Start in the corner. One hand on the flange, yep, one hand on the perimeter, and you're just going to drag it. And you don't have to take too much off at once. You can kind of lift it up and drag. Yeah, there you go. And then just take a little more off with each pass.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah, that, see how much better that looks? Yep. Okay, beautiful. So now you're gonna want to get more at this angle. So take some of that mud off
And push it over here.
Push it over to here. And you could also the flat trowel is also nice for just kind of scooping up.
Oh,
and lift it like this, like yeah, just like that. Like you can take your mud and then dump it over
Scoop
there.
it where you need it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But just to get the extra, because now it's a lot easier to screed with a bunch of that material removed.
I love packing shower pans.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's my favorite part of tile.
It's the art. It's the art form. You're shaping. You're creating.
These ledger boards make it like cheating though.
I know. Yeah. I know. It's too easy. You should have seen my first mud class. Oh, it was a mess. People were struggling. I pretty much had to help everybody just do the whole thing. Like we just tamped a perimeter and we tried to stay on it, and it was impossible.
Yeah, this is like cheating. Still takes finesse, but not near the level.
But yeah, watch here. See, you got off here, so you got to make sure that you're on both points.
Okay.
That's fine. You're doing good.
Yeah, that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen. Even after you've done it for 10 years, it's gonna happen.
Yep. How's Alberto doing down there?
He's doing good.
Nice. Okay, so use the long one again to get in that. Oh, pin up that far right corner and go as far as you can.
Okay.
Yep. And you're gonna drag it down towards me until you hit the other side of the flange. Yeah, which is about right there, huh?
Okay.
Yep. Beautiful. Yeah, that looks really nice. Okay, so do the same thing with on this side. Just go as far as you can, just like on the. Yep. There we go. Should be good. Yep. Okay, now get the 24-inch stick. Now work your way down towards me some more.
Yeah, just a flat trowel like that.
Yeah, everybody should have a flat trowel. It's okay, yeah, that's looking good. Yeah, as far as you can. That's probably good right there. Same thing on the other side. Yep, just slide it on down. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, so now, basically, this is going to be your screed to do as far as you can this way, and then you're going to do. Actually, what I would do from here, Wilmer, is just move. This is the point where we're going to meet in the middle. Just move this mud there, and then we're going to do the same idea that you did over there, and then we're gonna meet in the middle, and then that's where we're gonna finish up with this.
Oh, that's the size that you need for.
That's the size that we need.
Perfect. Okay.
Yep.
Isaac, I'm sure.
Okay, so you got too much mud in the pan, so that's fine. Where's our bucket?
I think they took them, but.
Oh, there's one right here. So. Okay. Oh, Zach, do we have any more buckets?
Yeah, I got them already ready.
Yeah, let's. He just had some extra.
Oh, okay.
Flat trowel with a light touch is the best way to scoop that out.
What's that?
A flat trowel with a light touch is the best way to scoop that out.
Yep. Yeah.
You just want to make sure you're not scooping into your finished mud bed.
Yep. Yeah, so yeah, it just becomes cumbersome once you get too much mud on there. You're just pushing it around too much, and it's a pain. So yeah, any of the excess just take off. Now just keep working towards the middle. Yep. Oh, yep. So if you do that now, just sprinkle some in there with your hand. Yeah. A little more. Yeah, you can pile it in there, no problem.
And then just.
Yeah. Tamp it back down.
That's the thing with dry pack. It's so forgiving.
Yep. I think.
So
yep.
forgiving.
Yeah,
you
you saw
have
that.
plenty of time to get it right.
Yeah. Indoors. Have you ever tried it outdoors?
No.
Oh man.
Sucks, dude. Balconies. Oh yeah, dude, it's a nightmare.
When we
You have to have a cover no matter what.
Oh really?
Yeah.
What was that style we were doing on that patio with the pool? Like a wet style?
Oh yeah, wet set. Yep.
That was bad.
Yeah, we were actually.
Tile at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get it just kind of loose about where it needs to go. You kind of rake it, move it around.
Yep.
And then you do your final tamp with the tile.
So I did one bathroom, a wet set one bathroom before.
I had a hard time with it, like that technique.
Yeah.
I think I'd move it too much and then it would like break the bond or something. Yeah. You have all the spots.
Exactly.
I kept doing that.
I did one.
So what I would probably do, Wilmer, is I'd probably screed all of that mud as close to this
the middle?
Yeah, just keep working it this way, keep working it that way, and then you're going to do your final tamp and scrape right in the middle here on both sides.
Okay.
That's excellent. Yep. Okay, now will the shorter stick work there, or is that as far as the short stick can go?
I think I might be able to go a little bit closer to the middle.
Okay.
That's the satisfying part, huh? Creating that and having this look beautiful. Yeah, that's the corners are definitely the more challenging part.
I really like using this thing. I've never used one of these.
Yeah, there you go. Now you're floating, so you can kind of feel how it'll float on the mud. Yeah. Yep. As long as you just don't dig too much and just kind of ride the top of the mud.
Yeah, you just kind of smooth it up, and then you can get with your final trowel.
It's nice that it's small and wide.
Marshalltown too makes a little baby. I have one of those. It's just a metal flat, but it's nice.
Yeah. So I actually learned how to tile off the internet.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
And then this section I'm gonna do with the float, right?
Yeah, let's just use the wood float. Give it a good scrape with the flat trowel, just the bottom of it first, just so it's nice and clean. The bottom of the trowel, the wood float, sorry.
This one?
Yeah, nope. Turn it over so we can see it.
Oh,
Yeah, and give it a nice little scrape with the flat trowel. No, flat trowel.
this one?
Other way, use the other part of the edge so it's, nope.
Oh yeah.
Leading part of the edge like this.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Yep. Nice and clean.
And then just tamp it down?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, you're coming over with me now.
Nice.
Yeah. So, Adam and Isaac.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, you had some good days.
Yeah.
So I'm actually from a full covered family, and my dad was a tile guy too. I was currently off a bunch of times. Like, no, I'm just busy, I'm just busy. So I got a job with another tile company for 3 months, and lived in different towns. I was 18. Truck broke down, had to move home, and did like regular clothes for a few years. Carpet, vinyl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's give it a little more. Let me see if I can. Let's see here. Maybe a tamp, like little more substantial tamp. I mean, you don't have to go super hard, but
Just pack it down.
pack it down. Yep. Clean off your edge. Yeah, now you should be able to.
Squeeze everything off.
Yeah, you should be able to just. And then it looks like we're still a little bit short. That's not going to quite reach this point.
Okay.
So what we can do is you can take this stick and then I'll cut it for you a little bit shorter so it'll fit right there.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make a little 20-inch stick. Did I cut it too short?
Yeah, you don't dig too deep.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do is you can have 2 trowels and scoop them like this. It's pretty cool trick.
Okay, see, I think
I was getting in here.
Yep. So you're
and
going to
it was
want to use the
digging in.
trowel and that, or sorry, the wood float in that point. There you go. Yep. Yep.
That's what's good about dry pockets. It's so versatile.
And then do those and then take your stick all the way around it.
Perfect.
So yeah, you need that short one.
You can have some of these in 20 minutes. Probably faster with these wedgers.
So now you can drag it if you want, because you know the point at which you can not dig in. Like if you just hold all the pressure down on the flange, you can take that stick and
Since
move all
there's
that
not
mud.
too much mud to move around.
Yeah, just kind of drag it across. You want to use you'd have to do it with 2 hands though, probably. Here, I'll show you like with this. I would just go like this. See how I just kind of brushed it aside?
Okay.
And the stick is barely, I mean, it's just riding.
Right over it.
Yeah, it's just, that's all I'm doing with the stick. I'm kind of letting, that's why we call it floating.
Yeah.
Because you're just letting the stick kind of just ride where it wants to go. Try that on this side with that mud. Try bringing that over here. So the only mud you have to pick up is on that side. Yep.
Isaac, how fast do you think you could pack the shower panel?
On this one? Probably about 15 minutes.
So ironically, this smaller one is actually I would rather do a
bigger one
than this one.
Mm-hmm.
They have that short
Yeah, get that mud out of there. Yeah.
And they have that short side that's trickier.
Yeah.
So you could actually do a slightly bigger one faster than a tiny one like this.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think in my video that I did showing this, I think it was about 20 minutes, and I was talking and teaching the whole time I was doing it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
In my demo, I did my module was a 4x4. And I felt like it was cheating because that's like the perfect size for efficiency. Yeah. Because you've only got a 2-foot wall everywhere.
Yeah.
You get this where you have the, I don't know, like a 10-inch section towards the front of the curb. That's good for instruction now. So that's the trickiest part.
We're almost there, Wilmer.
Yep.
Almost there. So yeah, so you could take this. Yeah, you could just take this and just ride it on both of them now. It's like this. Okay, so looks really good. Now we can take our wood float again and kind of shape it a little bit.
Okay.
So we're gonna go. Zach, can you hold this camera for me? Actually, we're gonna use the wood float. Yeah, so you're just gonna work in circle motions. This is kind of gonna get any of the little imperfections out, and you don't want to go too hard. You want to let everything kind of float on there, and we're letting the wood float just float over it. We're not putting down pressure. We're kind of just shaping it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, try that side.
I got to drive my beds before. I went ahead and just.
So yeah. So this looks good. You know, you can really kind of pack everything in. So I'm just going on the. You're putting your weight on the back of the flat trowel.
You're definitely going to dig in at least a couple times while you're running.
So that's pretty much the finish we're looking for right there.
So do you have a different approach when you're doing sheet membrane versus going over a pan liner?
Yeah, I try to be more exact.
And smoother.
Yeah.
Smoother, less cap faces. Do you call them cap faces here?
No, what's that?
Just the little missing spots?
Oh, yeah. Window. Okay, let's see. Alberto, how are we doing? Good.
You can pull it towards the curb real soft.
Yep.
Or you can also grab 2 trowels and use them as a scoop. But I usually just come back to the curb. And you just want to be careful when you're scooping it back that you don't dig into what you've already packed.
You bet, yeah.
It's looking good though. Looking great.
Okay, I like that. Okay, now we're gonna go for a steel trowel here and go across the other way.
Okay.
So as long as the pressure is on that back edge,
It's not gonna
it's
dig
not
into.
gonna dig in.
Okay.
So you see how nice that finishes?
Yep. That's gorgeous.
Yeah. That's what we're after. So go ahead and do that with the rest of it. The circle, you have to go in a circle mode. You know, you have to go around the drain. Yeah, that's looking really good. Got a little loose spot here. Yeah. Just a little bit of mud, just a little bit. And then just pack it back in. Back in. Okay, I like that. Let's, we got the vacuum, so we'll vacuum this stuff up so we can clean this flange.
Okay.
So
But the water, but putting more water in gives you more working time. I guess that's probably the advantage of having more water in the mix.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think part of what we were dealing with here is that the 5-gallon buckets is too small for the amount we were mixing.
It's too hard to consistently mix.
Yeah, so if you had a bigger tub, or maybe you do 3/4 of a bucket and then just eyeball it, that's what we usually do.
I'll usually pour in and leave like that much in the bag and then mix that remaining in with
Into
like
the
my,
next one.
yeah, because it's just so much easier to mix like 3/4 bucket.
So I love measuring water and mixing in a full bag. I think that your bucket trick where you cut the bottom of a bucket off,
And use
To
that as
give-
a collar on the top so
Yep.
it doesn't spill out. Yeah.
because one bag of mud fits really good in a 5-gallon bucket. You
Yeah.
just need that extra volume for mixing.
To work the mix.
Yeah. So you
it's
could
not
have,
falling out.
you could have one topper, one collar, and mix 5 buckets of mud. You just need one topper for it. And that gives you the extra volume to mix.
So this is I think one of the solutions we could do so that we can mix a full bag without it spilling out. So basically you just put that on there. That gives you the extra height And that gives you that 3 inches of height, just so it doesn't spill out while you're mixing. And then you just move it to each bucket as you're mixing. So, yeah, I think one thing I'm gonna leave these guys with is to do this trick so that they can get a better mix with that auger. Because it was just hard to get a good mix. I think it came a little on the dry side. So for me, I like my mud a little more dry, but I work really fast. For these guys who are taking a little longer to do their float, it would be better for them and for you to have your mud a little more wet. Doing this would allow you to add a little more water and really get that thing mixed up well. So, nice little hack. See that, Chase?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful.
So then you just move it from bucket to bucket.
Yep.
As you need to mix.
That's perfect. It gives you just enough extra volume to fully mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Then you can follow the water ratios of the half gallon per bag.
Yep.
And you're not trying to guess.
Yep.
So you can stay consistent.
Yep. You only got to ruin one bucket for it.
Yeah.
That one was already ruined, so.
Yeah, Home Depot buckets. These handles are so cheap right here. They break.
Yep.
So in our mud class, we probably had like 6 or 8 of them that the handles broke off. Yeah. So, yeah, good little hack though.
That's a great hack. It's one of those things. Your first one is definitely the hardest.
Yeah.
But after 4 or 5, this is a 20 or 30 minute project. 20 or 30 minute project, doesn't matter if the floor is level, an inch out of level. It's the same amount of time and commitment. So.
Yeah, and one thing I would say probably that I learned, and this is why it's so good for me to work with you guys, is because I had you guys mix up the mud to where I would like it on the drier side, but I noticed with you guys it takes you a little bit longer, so that mud starts to dry out and it gets even too dry. Yeah. So now I can recommend, let's go a little bit on the wetter side, and it'll be easier for you guys to do it. So, do you think that would have helped? Like if we would have had the
Yeah, we got a little
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, it takes practice.
yeah
Yeah.
So
yeah
I think it would have helped most at the finishing edge when you're still troweling and really trying to smooth everything down.
Yeah.
If it was a little wetter, you'd have got a little smoother result.
yeah.
Man, other than that, the mortar lock ledgers are freaking sweet. Like so easy.
Yeah, could you imagine trying to all the touch-ups you were doing to not have that rail? How hard that would have been.
Yeah.
So normally you're just going through and tamping down the perimeter, and as you're screeding down, you have to be very careful not to screed into your perimeter.
Yeah.
And with this, you don't have to worry about that. You can put them on plenty of pressure. You can just screed. That's what I took away from it. How awesome those are.
Yeah, I think it definitely can mean that they can make the difference of a successful finish.
Yeah.
And whether you have to tear it all out.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. But no, these are good. Tomorrow, so what we'll do when we get in here first thing tomorrow is we're gonna vacuum it out. Sometimes some of the looser stuff that did dry on the top it's gonna just suck up with the vacuum. You'll have a few little pits here and there. We'll take some speed set and we'll just comb over it with the flat trowel, just kind of give it a skim coat, and then we'll let that harden, and then we can put the membrane on over that. So I get that question a lot. You know, can I put Thinset over it if I have a low spot? Certainly you can, because you're going to be putting Thinset over it anyways with the sheet membrane. So yeah, that's what we'll do. Then we'll get into the sheet membrane. Right, Chase?
I don't know. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's gonna break. 1, 2, 3, FloFX!
I just assume it's all gonna go wrong. So.
So yeah, look how much moisture was coming out of that. That's how much moisture is in that mud bed. So yeah, so there's definitely some sandy areas. So what we're gonna do, and I get this question a lot, so this is good for us to have to deal with this. We're gonna vacuum up whatever's loose, and then we're just gonna do a skim coat of speed set. Let that dry, and then we can put the membrane over that. Because otherwise we'll be fighting all these little sand particles as we're troweling, and we want it to be as smooth as possible. So yeah, so let's take the plastic off, get the vacuum, just vacuum it up. You don't need to go crazy like digging or anything, just whatever the vacuum will pick up, let it pick it up. Yeah, so we'll do that, and then maybe the next coat will just be pretty loose. And then
So yeah, just so that it's
smooth
like
it
a
all.
smoother.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So Zach, check it out. So yeah, this is what the first coat went on real nice. So we figured we're gonna do 2 coats of this because on the first coat it was kind of grabbing the sand and it was just kind of pulling the sand up to the top. And this one coat here, this would probably be okay. I almost think that we could go right over this with the Thinset and the membrane, but just to make it extra smooth, because you don't want little grits of sand getting in between the Thinset and the membrane, because then when you're pushing the membrane down, you don't want to hit grains of sand because it could puncture. So you want it to be as smooth as you can get it. And like I said, this is probably okay, but just to be safe, we're gonna go 1 more coat and we'll mix that speed set up pretty loose. And we're already getting parts that are firm and dry. That's the nice thing about this speed set is it goes off so fast that you can work on it and get it ready. So this isn't gonna hold us up any. So we'll let this dry, 1 more coat, and then we should be ready for membrane.
Load up nice like this. When you place it, what's nice about this is it's pretty straight. You're able to just place it just like that. And you don't have a whole lot of surface area into the wet Thinset. So it gives you a chance to really get that dialed in and get it nice and square with the wall. And then once you get it square, that much square, then you can roll that out.
Okay.
And then you only have just a little flap to Thinset on the next side.
Oh, so you don't even put Thinset on the back on that wall?
No,
Okay.
just this wall allows you to get that positioned real well. And then as you do this wall, come in, spread that, smooth that out, and then spread that.
Gotcha. Yeah. Good deal.
But rolling it like that makes it really easy to position it.
Okay. Let's do the sheet membrane. We got our skim coat of Thinset that's dried really nice, really smooth. Check this out. This is now we got a really nice surface to work on, nice and smooth with that speed set. We just did that's 2 coats of speed set. So order of operations with sheet membrane. You can do it a couple different ways. I like to get the walls done first. I usually work from the walls if they need it. Our back wall's already waterproof, so we don't need anything but the penetrations and seams. But on the side walls, I like to do the walls first, and then I'll do the pan, the square pan. Then I'm going to do corners, and then I'm going to do band. But as long as you have a 2-inch overlap, you can mix up that order of operations, no problem. The key is that you have 2 inches of overlap. Anytime 2 pieces of membrane come together, as long as it's overlapping 2 inches, you're fine. That's what this overlap area is for. So it doesn't matter if it's like that, it doesn't matter if it's like that. Our order of operations is completely up to what you think is going to work best. And in this instance, I like to get the walls done first. A lot of you guys are going to be using a waterproof wallboard anyways, so you wouldn't have to do the walls. But again, if it's cement board or drywall and you want to do sheet membrane, it's great. I always choose to do sheet membrane on the pan. To me, that's the best way to waterproof a pan. You could use the liquid membranes, but especially on a mortar bed, it takes forever for the mortar to dry, and you'll get failures if you put the liquid on it too soon. It'll end up bubbling up, and that's no good. The other thing about doing liquid membrane is it's difficult to get the right thickness, the correct thickness. Rate of application is really critical when using liquid membranes. You can't get them too thick. If they're too thick, they'll crack. If they're too thin, they aren't gonna hold the water correctly. So sheet membranes take all of that guesswork out. You're not guessing what rate to apply it. You're not waiting in between dry times. You just thin set the sheet membrane onto the wall. We have our sheet membrane, the trowels that we're going to use. We have an 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch trowel, which it works great. Also a 3/16 V-notch works well too. They put about the same amount of thinset on the wall. Thinset that we're going to use, FloFX. Do you guys have specific thinsets to recommend?
So we have a whole list. Pretty much any thinset will work, but you want to avoid anything with a large aggregate. So the LFT mortars, while they work, there are better choices. Something with a smaller aggregate.
Yeah. So today we're going to be using Customs Pro Light, highly modified lightweight mortar with a fine aggregate in it.
Yep.
And so it will smooth out really nicely under the bands. Another good one is Latticrete Multi-Max Light, which has 0 aggregate in it, and it's almost like a glue that goes together. One of the things that you're gonna need to be paying attention to when using the thinset and these sheet membrane systems is the open time. When you trowel the mortar, you can't wait too long before you embed the sheet membrane into it. The sheet membrane is made up of 2 components. It's made up of a non-woven polyester fleece, which is the white portion that you see, and it has an inner core, which is the polyethylene, which is the actual waterproofing part of it. So the non-woven fleece is to anchor the sheet membrane into the thinset systems. If you were to comb too much of an area before you put the membrane into it, it's not going to get a good bond, and it's not going to get a good watertight seal. Now, when we're talking about waterproofness of these systems, you might be wondering why we're using thinset to put sheet membrane together. Well, the principle behind it is that these systems, because they're not it's not a weep, water in, water out system, and the tile and thinset is directly on the sheet membrane, in between uses of the shower, it's allowed to, all the moisture evaporates and it's allowed to dry out. So there's never enough time of saturation for that water to pass under the bands. In my testing, I've done 14-day flood tests with only a 1/4 inch of penetration under the bands. So that'd be like a swimming pool sitting for 14 days and only moving a 1/4 inch under the bands. Now, that's using a highly modified thinset. If you were to use an unmodified, that rate happens a lot faster. It will completely go under the bands in about 5 days. So that's why I recommend to use a modified thinset. That's why Schluter has moved to using a modified thinset. Their installation instructions still state that you can use unmodified, but they're steering everybody away from that, and that'll probably be phased out at some point, I would guess. So the modified thinsets have a lot more, I guess, resistance to the capillary action. And so that's why I recommend using a modified thinset when doing the sheet membranes. And you could always go over, I don't know, Chase, how do you feel about going over with a liquid? Would you advise against it, or do you need it?
It's definitely not needed, but it's not going to cause a problem either.
Yeah. So So I see a lot of installers, and I've done it. I've shown it in my videos where I'll do the sheet membrane. And I'm like, well, I do want it to act like a swimming pool. I do want to, if this flooded, filled up for 6 months, you know, I want it to act like a pan liner or a hot mop. Then I go over it with a coat of Hydroban, and it's just kind of, you know, double waterproofing. I'll show you how we're going to do the sheet membrane on this wall here. So when you're doing a big surface on a wall, half the battle is just getting the thinset up onto the wall itself. Since we need to mix our thinset a little bit looser, it can be a challenge. I saw most of you guys with your mix was too stiff. You guys mixed it like you were going to set tile. You want the thinset to be looser. Looser? Like a thick pancake batter, basically. Like.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. So you still want it to kind of stand on the trowel, but you don't want it stiff like you're going to be setting tile with. Mm-hmm. So I usually use a combination of a couple trowels just to get the thinset up. It's nice to be able to kind of transfer almost like you're using a hawk. Actually, a hawk probably would be nice to get thinset up. Get the thinset on there. We just want to get the thinset up on the wall. And you don't have to do this with 2 trowels. This is just what I do. However it works for you to get the thinset up.
Get the kiddo. Yeah. Get the mud up on the wall.
And ProLite is a really nice thinset. It's easier to get up on the wall than a lot of thinsets. Multimax Light, believe it or not, is one of the harder to work with. We don't use it very often on big surfaces. Great for the banding in the corners.
And the nice thing about getting all the thinset up on the wall before you start spreading your notch, it's going to allow you to spread your notch on the entire wall in less time, and that'll give you more open time to apply your membrane.
And if you're on a porous surface, we're on prime drywall right here. If you were on an unprimed surface or a cement board, you'd want to get it wet, sponge it down, so it doesn't suck all that moisture out.
So it would be tempting to just start at the bottom and start spreading your notch and get some more thinset up, spread your notch, get some more up, spread your notch. And what that does, by the time you get to the top of the wall, the bottom of the wall is already going to be skimmed over. So by getting all the thinset up on the wall first and then spreading the notch, that's going to give you the maximum open time first. So you can clean up the floor.
So yeah, it's just as even of a coat as you can to get the mud up first. Alberto.
Yes, sir.
Come watch, please.
Yeah.
You'll have plenty of time to do yours.
All right.
Okay. So now that I got the mud pretty much up where it's going to be, now I'm going to use the trowel. And I don't think it really matters which way the ridges go.
It doesn't. No, if you're not setting a tile right here, directional trowel isn't nearly as important. The big thing is that you want to have a full notch everywhere and you don't want to have any big notches over.
I think that's pretty good. And you also don't have to go all the way to the top usually. Usually manufacturers just want you to go above the shower head. But if you had maybe a rain shower, you go all the way to the ceiling. But see, by getting all that mud up on the wall, that saved me a lot of time of troweling. You just don't want to give this thinset a chance to dry. It's still nice and shiny. If you start to see it go to that matte color, you got to start over, scrape it off, and do it over. So I got my large roll sheet rolled up. No, actually, this is the regular 39-inch roll.
Yep.
Just rolled long ways.
Yep.
So we're going to start in the corner. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. 'Cause I want to go. I'm actually going to go. Since I got my outside line here, I got to get that part. But all I'm doing, I'm not really going to start working down. I'm going to work from this corner over. So this is just getting my sheet to my outside line where I want to be. And then my overlap is going to go on the rest of the board. So the nice thing with the cross pattern on the FloFX membrane is you can kind of see where the corner is going to be. And I want to start with my corner first so that I'm nice. Let's see, so we're just on the, if I stay on this cross in the corner, that's where I'm going to want to be. I'm actually going to scoot that over to get that cross in the corner. There we go. Cross stays in the corner. Oh, we went a little bit. So we probably have about an inch at the top, so I actually have to bring this down. There we go. So pay attention to that because we cut, it's not quite all the way up. So you're gonna have to maybe, we got, yeah, it's still recording now. So now I'm back to getting my cross right in the corner where it should be. And the initial set can just be with your hand. It can just kind of shape it. You can feel it go into the wall. There we go. Okay. Now I got it. So yeah, that was kind of a mistake that I made. I should have known that we had a gap, because it's okay to have a gap up there. It's not okay to have a gap on the floor. So I should have paid more attention to that. But it's fine.
You have plastic spread, but if you're gonna have any issues at all, it's when you're spreading into the corner.
Yeah. So we round the edge of our taping knives so it doesn't have a sharp corner, because if you get into this corner, it could tear it. Plastic, the cheapy throwaway ones, work good too. Yeah. So now I'm just going to work the air out of it. I like to work from the center out to the corners. So this is just getting any air out from underneath the membrane. Any extra Thinset, which there shouldn't be if you have a consistent notch, but you can see how much Thinset's squeezing out. You know you got a good bond when that's happening. I'm going to deal with this little cutout detail after I get the bulk of this spread out. Yeah, any air bubbles we want to work out. So I have an air bubble right here. You can see this air bubble. Can you see that, Zach? Mm-hmm. So I actually have to lift this to let the air escape here, and then just put it right back in. The nice thing about the FloFX is that it goes into the corners real nice. You can get it into the corner really nice and tight, and it wants to stay there. Some of the other membranes kind of tend to want to round in the corner. Yep. For this one, you can get a nice sharp angle.
That's one of the benefits of 100% chrome too, is it's a little more pliable.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm feeling really good about that. Gonna my knife. Just you want a nice sharp blade on your razor knife, otherwise it'll just tear the membrane.
Yeah, you want a brand new blade pretty much every time you cut it.
Yep.
I actually spend the money on better blades, like the carbide ones, and it seems like they're a little sharper.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you actually want really sharp blades, the brand's called Persona. You get them at a carpet store. They're like for carpet pad. They're super sharp. They're like blue, and they are so much sharper than a regular utility blade.
I get that whole box, like 100 of them.
Yep.
It allows me to.
They come in little paper bags.
Each one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Usually pack of 5.
That's good.
Little pack of 5. Made by the same company that makes yeah.
Little staple right there. Let's see how we did on that coverage here. Yeah, that's really good.
Good.
Yeah. A few little trowel lines right there, but that's totally acceptable.
So we get a lot of questions about what Thinset. We kind of talked about it earlier. The most important part is that you have excellent transfer into the fleece. So where Isaac had excellent transfer, that's what you're looking for. If it skimmed over it all, that's when you're going to have issues. But as long as you have excellent transfer, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, you're not going to have issues. Okay, so then we have this inside corner wrapped. I think in this case it would probably be easier, guys, if we could, since we have a plumb line.
Yeah.
I'd probably start there. Make sure your bottom is good, and then then you can roll it out that way. So I'll do my wrap now. So normally if this was a wall that we were going to do sheet membrane on, I would spread this whole wall and continue do the same thing over into this corner. But since, or if it was a smaller roll, I might draw a plumb line here.
Yep.
And just so that we get our 2-inch overlap.
Yep.
And then just keep going. So you only need a 2-inch overlap on everything, but so then our next sheet we could start right on that line.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Gosh, I wish I was just like 6 inches taller.
Same. My whole life.
You know? So I just kind of lightly lightly pressure on that membrane, just kind of, it's almost like seeding it, you know. And then the next pass can be, you know, a little more aggressive. That's pretty much it for this one here.
White Thinset looks so much better.
Yeah,
It really does.
yeah, especially on the blue.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, any questions? No? Think you got it? Okay, let's do it. Same procedure. Yeah, so just start from the outside plumb line and work in that way. And we got pretty close. All right. How about it, guys?
Same wall, right?
Either one, you got. All right, so they got the main sheet down on the floor here. And what we did is we decided to wrap the membrane up and over the curb. That's going to eliminate one seam. And so each one is going to get 2 out corners and 4 in corners. Right? That sound right? So I like to do, when I'm doing the banding, I like to do the corners first. That way you can see where your 2-inch overlap is without doing a triple overlap. So if we go, I don't want to get his membrane all dirty. So if you do your corners first, the leg on the corners is 2 inches. It's actually 2 1/4, so you don't have to go all the way to the inside of the leg. But that's how you know that you have a 2-inch overlap if you come to the inside corner of this L. So once you have those in, then it's a matter of just bringing your banding up to, and that one tore a little bit, right up to that corner right here. See, I have
I think that was the double-sided tape that they used to start their roll.
Yeah. So there's that's a 2-inch overlap, because if you don't put the corners in first and you run them all the way into the corners, now you're going to have more than one overlap right here, which you don't want. So I like to do the corners.
Quite a bit of build-up.
Yeah, it adds build-up. So we'll do the 4 insides, 2 outside corners, and then the banding. Sound good, Jeremy?
Sounds great.
You can get your own pan dirty if you want.
Yeah, I probably will. Thank you.
Isaac, do you like those shoes?
You need 2 more corners there, Jeremy, right?
Yes.
It's Alberto's first shower pan that was ever done, and it's looking great, looking really good. So yeah, corners first, and then we'll cut the banding after that. How we doing, Jeremy? Good. Yeah. One thing that I forgot to show you is that we should pre-cut the inside corners so that the one leg doesn't go higher than the curb. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, good call.
So I can usually, you can be real careful and just cut them in place, but it's a lot easier to do
Right.
before, yeah. Scissors right there would be nice. There you go. No problem there. So yeah, sometimes on your inside corners, what I just did there
Yeah.
is that this is too tall. So if you put it in there, now you're sticking up high. So what you want to do is take Now you can just take your Sharpie, make a mark, and then when I cut banding or corners, flat trowel or any trowel will work really good. You can use it kind of as a something to cut against. Corners are a little trickier, huh? Something like that. And you cut a nice straight square line. And so now that piece will go just like that and not be up over the curve. Same thing usually needs to be done with the outside corners, right?
Yeah.
Because this leg is going to be too deep. So we'll cut that. See how high that is? So we need to cut this leg. This one we probably need to do with a tape measure. So we're 2 inches. Two inches is right there. Nice straight cut, and that's gonna go right on there. And actually one more, huh? Now we're gonna need to cut right there. So it's a lot easier to do this stuff beforehand, before you have your thinset spread, because again we're working against the open time of the thinset. There we go. There we go.
Good, yeah. Okay. The corners, you just want them in there nice and tight. One.
Oh, are you just getting yeah.
Yeah, I was just pre-cutting everything.
Yeah. So once the corners are in, you can see the point at where we're gonna have to cut this band. So I like to take measurements. I got 24, and you can even, you can just mark them so you can do them all at once. So that one's 24. And you want to go almost to the inside corner, but you don't want to go over. So I try to stay like, like an eighth back. So 53 and 7/8.
You're definitely better off going a little short than going long.
Yeah, because those legs on the corners are actually 2 1/4.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So you got a little bit of play there.
Yep.
So same thing, because if you're trying to cut them in the field, you see how it's kind of, it's not a straight line. I like to get them real clean so you can set them up, and I usually make all of my cuts at once. 53. So I'll start with the square corner, and a flat trowel is great because you can use it as a square, so that you're cutting a nice square line.
You can also
line it up on that side. Yeah.
Put pressure on it, hold it in place.
So I'm going to start with that, and then we're going, what did I say, 53 and 7/8. 53 and 7/8. Sand on the floor just makes everything more difficult. 53. So I got nice square corners, clean cuts on both sides. And so you can go around and pre-cut your 3 sides and then install them all at once.
Cool.
So this is a good example of areas. Coverage is really critical when we're doing these layers of sheet membrane. The 2 inches, we want a full coverage underneath. So when you have light areas like this that aren't fully notched, that's a potential leak point, because now we don't have 2 inches, we only have about 3/4. So just make sure you got enough, and you can always, again, you can always squeeze it out when you do it, but we want a nice full notch. And then put the sheet membrane into it. And it looks like even right there is a little thin. And I know our Thinset's getting down to the end, so that's probably why it was like that. But yeah, don't be afraid to just go back over it again. Make sure we get that full coverage under that 2 inches.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. And if there's a little extra Thinset under there, you'll feel it, and you'll be able to squeeze it out.
Yeah.
Here's a knife if you need it. You can use that knife, Alberto. We got another one. Yeah, you really kind of want to see it ooze out in those corners. The most critical points, or when I've done my testing and I've seen failure, the water always wants to creep in right there. So I'm always careful to make sure I get it pressed down really good in this area, especially in that corner. Yeah, just like that. That's perfect. Yep, there you go. That's plenty. It looks in silver. Yeah, just like cornered in silver.
I think you need to err on the side of caution.
And just do more.
Yep.
Have you ever had one come out?
I know that I had a bunch of people not Thinset them in at all. They just set them in there.
Oh, really?
That was bad. That's bad.
Yeah, no, you gotta put this.
So what I actually,
Because if you were to cover your notch over this, there's no way these are coming out.
no,
And if you got a bed of mortar here, and this is pushed down into it, it's
Yep.
gonna lock in. You would
Yeah.
have to take something and like rip it out of place.
yeah. So what I do, I'll take my margin trim. This, I treat this just like it's a tile trim. It's like a pencil rail, anything, thin piece of trim, and I'll fill in the mortar cavities. But I don't worry about going into this section at all. I want to keep all the Thinset contained into here, because this is actually a trim that's designed to hide that Thinset.
Okay.
So if you have too much Thinset squeezing out and you look down through the grate, you're going to see all the white Thinset and it looks horrible.
Yeah.
So you want to keep all the Thinset contained underneath the grate carrier itself. So I try to not put too much in.
Yeah.
That's one of the, especially when you have like a black grate and white Thinset and you have a bunch of white
Oh, yeah,
Thinset
you
poked
see it
out that
there.
didn't get cleaned up.
Yep.
But there's a lot of ways to do everything. Hopefully this is a perfect fit. Nice.
Oh, perfect.
Money. Lucked out today. So you basically just dry fit this here. Put the grate carrier in itself. The shims, there's three thick and one micro adjust shim. And you basically just want to find the right combination to bring the grate carrier up to the tile elevation. And rather than putting the spacers in and putting this, you can literally just put the grate carrier in itself and then add the shims to height.
Right there.
And that's, you want the grate carrier itself to be slightly low, you don't want it to be high. It looks like 2 is pretty perfect. If you have that thin one, gosh, that might be better, but it's always easier to just add a little more Thinset under the grate carrier itself. If you have too many shims and you get to a point where you can't push that down,
You're screwed.
yeah, you're screwed. You got to pull everything up, you got to pull the shims out from underneath the tile, and it's way harder. So you're always better off being just a little bit lower.
Oh, a knife.
So yeah, with those, with just 2 thick shims,
Got it.
It looks like that's about perfect for us right
That
there.
one might not have a blade in it.
Yeah, that is literally perfect.
Oh yeah, that one.
The other thing you want to look for, if you have any stuff in the corners, you just want to make sure that they're fully seated.
We'll go over this with you too, Alberta, don't worry. You can keep working. We can just keep working here. We'll show you the grate when it comes.
Yeah, two is literally perfect right there. But that's kind of a time-saving trick rather than pulling the shims out and putting them back in, just stack them right on top of the grate carrier itself. Then when you're actually installing this, I like to take Thinset and literally just run from the corner, this corner here, right to the inner crosshatch. And all you gotta do is just run a nice bead from here, all 4 corners, and that's just enough to place the shims right down into the Thinset. Then I take, just to keep my fingers clean, I'll just press it down with this. Press it on the margin trowel and I'll kind of scrape it off, get it cleaned up. And then the grate carrier itself will go in, apply Thinset to the mortar cavities, get it filled up. And you want enough Thinset on here, just enough that it's going to bond well to that, but not so much that it squeezes out everywhere. Go ahead, set that to elevation. I like to set the grate carrier itself so it's slightly proud, so that after we set tile, we have enough room here that we can push that down just a little bit. So we would rather have this high than low and have excess Thinset so we can push it down and fine adjust it. Once that's pressed into place, when we spread our Thinset, I like to take the flat side of my trowel and fill in this adjustment gap. And you may be in a situation where this is adjusted all the way over and you have a bigger gap to fill. And we'll just go through, fill in the gap, spread the notch, and then set the tile. Yeah, we got super lucky with that. So that's kind of a quick demo, but I want you to do it. Okay, sweet.
All right, Jeremy, let's
Yeah,
see
no,
it.
that's great.
Literally perfect. It's exactly what you're looking for. Sweet. Any excess you're gonna scrape up anyway, so.
Set these in.
Put those in just enough and then really press them in with your margin. And I like to push them so they're like completely bottomed out. Perfect, and then you just kind of scrape off the excess. And then that area that you're scraping right now, you want to take and sponge that.
Okay.
I'll usually sponge that before I put the grate carrier in, just to make sure it's nice and clean.
Cool.
So we don't have a regular. Yeah, we don't have a regular grate here to show.
Let's see, is that the area you were talking about
Yeah.
earlier that like
Yeah,
it
so-
looks cruddy and it's covered in
Yeah, so you can take this off. And as you look down in, if you see any of that
Yeah.
Thinset, you're gonna see that through the grate. So you want to clean up anything that you're gonna see through the grate.
Totally.
I don't worry about it if we're at a low angle like this and you can see some stuff. That's never a situation where
But
you're
if you're
actually gonna
like
see under.
standing here.
Yes, yeah, you want to make sure that's. And then after you set the grate carrier, you're probably gonna want to pop off that temp install plate too. Sometimes I'll actually install the grate carrier without the install plate so that it's easier to clean out.
Oh yeah.
So if you hand me that. So if we set this with a temporary install plate on, we're not going to be able to pull this. This has a friction fit, so we're not going to be able to pull that out to clean out the Thinset. So we can actually set this, clean out any Thinset, and then place that on.
Cool. Makes sense.
Okay, and then that baby, you're just going to butter the back of that just like it's a tile trim. Yep. Fill in the mortar cavities the best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect.
And what you're looking for is about an 1/8 inch width on that.
Okay.
You like everyone watching you? You ever have one of those jobs where the homeowner sits there and watches everything you do?
Yeah, costs more.
It feels like this is that plus 10 because the camera's watching you too, huh?
That's okay. That's where the teaching was good.
So you probably want
20
a
some
little-
odd eyes on you all the time.
Probably a little more right there. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's pretty good right there. And you're basically just going to set it into place. You can give it a little pressure. Okay, perfect. And then you're gonna set the tile, and then that's when you really put it down into position.
Oh, right. Yep.
Yep. Is it low of it right now?
Yeah.
It's still pretty low, huh? Okay, so you.
I was saying because it was good with the spacers.
Yep. So you have two options right there because you're gonna be setting the tile too.
Mm-hmm.
You may actually want to add your thin shim. Oh, you use the thin shim.
Yeah, because the yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you can pull the grate carrier itself and add a little more Thinset,
Okay.
or you could swap out the thin shim there. That thin shim, you could swap it out for a thick one.
Should I add a little?
Yeah,
smear a little more.
No,
just...
you're probably fine right there. And what you'll do, that Thinset right there, you may want to add just a little more so that it goes into that shim. Cool. You should be good right there.
All right.
Basically, what you're trying to do right here is accomplish good coverage. And if you have excess, it's going to smush out. And the worst case is you just have more to clean it. You have more to clean up. So if you're more accurate, it's easier to clean up. If you have stuff come out everywhere, it's fine. It's just a little more work to clean up. But
Yeah, that's more my style. More clean up.
Yep.
For better or worse.
Yeah, see how
There
you're
we go. Yeah, so now it's a little proud. Now we can squish it.
That's exactly where you want to be. Then you'll set your tile and then just adjust that down into place. Clean up any of the excess.
There we go.
Like I said, the big thing you're looking for here
Yeah.
is standing up at a pretty neutral position. You want
So we'll clean all that up.
You want to wipe out any of that.
Yeah.
So that it's prettier. And sometimes if you have a junk sponge, you can cut just like a little corner off so you have just a little piece of sponge to get out in there.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. But the big thing here is you don't need to have full coverage on this trim. That's literally just there to overhang the Thinset so it's not as visible. What you have there, that's great.
Their certificate.
Thank you.
I gotta cover the hole.
The hole. There you go.
The bullet.
It just makes it look like you've been working extra hard.
I just want you three up there because we already got a picture with Chase.
Yeah.
Are you just gonna pull it from the video?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
He'll get something good out of it.
I get another picture.
We're at. I get a lot of people looking for installers in all corners of our country. So now the part of what I want to do with the certification program is now I can tell the homeowners, you know, this person came to my workshop, he completed it, got a certificate of completion, and I recommend him. So I can hand out jobs to you guys. And
Cool, thank
you. So,
Awesome, man.
yeah, and if you guys ever need anything, any help with any projects, I'm always here.
Thank you.
But yeah, thanks for being part of it, and I really appreciate you guys' dedication to the tile craft, and I just wish you guys all the best.
Thank you.
And I
Cool, thank you.
hope it does for you what it did for me.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
incredible.